Hello and welcome to the Premier League preview show here on Citi TV. Well, it's the final match day of the 2022-2023 English Premier League. Interestingly, for this weekend, all games kick off simultaneously on Sunday. For the Champions League places, we have Manchester City and also Arsenal alongside Manchester United, and then Newcastle United taking that spot. For the Europa League, Liverpool and Brighton have picked that positions as well. But there's more to play for this weekend when it comes to the Europa Conference League sports. Tottenham Hotspur, Brentford, and also the opponent does one of Brentford are looking for one slot there. So we'll get into that as Tottenham Hotspur, Aston Villa, and Brentford fight for that Europa Conference League slot. And then there is that conversation regarding the relegation fight. 3 teams, 2 slots to relegated. Everton, Leeds United, Leicester City. 2 of these teams will be relegated this weekend. Stick and stay with us. Let's go for a quick pause. When we return, the guys are here. We'll get into the match week 38 of the English Premier League. All right, you're watching the Premier League preview show here on Citi TV with me, Evan Sofochu, man. So the guys are here. There's Elike Mavotri, as usual. Elike, hope you're having a good day.
I'm having a good day.
And also Emmanuel Buduano joining us for the analysis of the Premier League final day as well.
Pleasure.
Hope you're having a good time. All right, the guys are ready. I'm also ready. Let's get into the match with 38 of the Premier League, the final match day. There's still more to play for, relegation fights and also that place for the Europa Conference League. So we have Aston Villa taking on Brighton on Sunday. Everton will welcome Bournemouth to the Goodison Park. Leeds United, they face Tottenham Hotspur in a game where they must win to survive. Brentford take on the champions of the season, Manchester City. Then at the Old Trafford, we have Manchester United having qualified for next season's UEFA Champions League, coming up against Fulham. And then Chelsea, quite a very disappointing season for them. I'm sure their fans will hope that this season is over, but they have to wrap up at the Stamford Bridge against Newcastle United. Leicester City are in the relegation fight. They are up against West Ham United, who will be playing for Pride. And then Arsenal, having led for long spells of the season and losing the championship to Man City, take on Wolves at the Emirates Stadium. Relegated Southampton will take on Liverpool. And then we have Crystal Palace, what could potentially be the final game for Roy Hodgson. He comes up against Nottingham Forest. Andre Ayew's Nottingham Forest. So these are the 10 games this weekend in the English Premier League, match week 38 there. And where also started discussion from, if not from the fight for the Europa Conference League. Yes, that's one of the slots yet to be decided, though. 3 teams will be battling for 1 slot. There's Aston Villa, who at the moment are in that position, but they have to fight off competition from Tottenham Hotspur and also Brentford in order to qualify for this one there. At the moment, Aston Villa up against Brighton at the Villa Park. Ellie, let me start with you on this one. Key question is, can Villa end their season with a win to seal that place in the Conference League?
Yes, they are going to do that. I expect them to do it. And you look at the dynamics ahead of this game. Had it been any other meaning to this game, I would tip Brighton. But here's a game where Aston Villa needed more, and you expect them to get the results at home, especially with how they've been playing under Unai Emery. Now, Brighton, for me, I believe their season, they are mentally done for the season after that draw against Manchester City. They've sealed Europa League qualification. They've sealed. They cannot add to what they've done this season with any results against Aston Villa. So I look at this game as Aston Villa needing them more than Brighton, and with what has been achieved this season under Unai Emery for Aston Villa, this will be a good way to wrap everything up and just give them a chance to fight in Europe. And let's not forget, Aston Villa will come into this game having in mind what kind of manager they have and his prowess in Europe. And they know that they are not only playing to qualify for the competition, they know within themselves that if they qualify for this competition, they have a manager who can take them all the way, because he has the pedigree, he has the track record to show that he can do things with this team. They will be also looking at West Ham and see what they've done in the Europa Conference League this year. They are in the final, they have a chance to win a trophy. And this is one thing I always say. The Conference League, if I was an owner or a coach or anyone linked to a club, a mid-table club, I'll be targeting a Conference League.
You think that's
is the best way to get a European trophy. And in addition to having that trophy, it's a very beautiful trophy, I must say. In addition to having that trophy, you get qualification to the next season's Europa League. For a mid-table club in the Premier League, you should fancy your chance against any other competitor in that competition. So it's a good opportunity for them, and I don't think they'll let it slip.
But you might tell me, how huge of a story will it be for Aston Villa if they progress into the Conference League next season? Yes, they started not too well under Steven Gerrard. Unai Emery comes in, and here they are on the verge of qualifying for Europe. How huge of a story will this be for the club?
Yeah, first of all, I think Unai Emery deserves commendation for what he's been able to achieve with the squad. I mean, from the onset, you could see that they have a very special group, but it's more or less like they had a few, it had to do with like tactical ineptitude that was sort of like derailing their season. But Emery came in and then used the material at his disposal to actually make something beautiful, and they are almost there. If they are able to secure a place in the Conference League, like Elikem rightly said, it would be an achievement of sorts, because they are a club that has a very good history behind them as well. And then, like he rightly said as well,
I think they were one-time champions of Europe. I think they fought the Champions League before.
Yes, yeah, they've been able to win it before, along with Nottingham Forest and co. So this is a competition that if they are able to sort of like make it their own as a mid-table club in England, you know, we all know that it won't be possible for them to climb up there and then win the trophy, because you have the big boys up there.
Exactly.
Anyway. So these are the sort of competitions that they can also build a legacy at the moment, like try to build a legacy for themselves in there, and then use it as a pathway to move into the Europa League, and maybe some way, somehow, they might end up in, like, getting a Champions League qualification if they are able to win the Europa, because like Elikem rightly said once again, Unai Emery has a very good track record as far as winning that competition is concerned. So if you have that manager with you, and then you have the materials, you have the players who will be able to deliver that, I think we have to go all out for that.
Let's look at the stats of that game, and then we'll come back and look at how tricky that test is for Aston Villa. So they are playing against Brighton. At the moment, Brighton are 6th on the league table, Villa are 7th, and Villa have won 17 games all season. They have 7 draw matches and then 13 defeats with a goal difference of +4. And the opponent, Brighton, looking at the stats, they are not a pushover, because they have 18 wins, 8 draws and 11 losses all season with a goal difference of +20. I'm sure their talent like Mitoma and Siso will be quite a very scary force to play. So how tricky of a contest is this for Aston Villa? Yes, they have all to play for against the Brighton team that have already qualified for Europa League, but I'm sure Roberto De Zerbi's team always is a very tricky tie for anyone.
Yeah. So for this particular game, I also fancy Villa taking the maximum 3 points, in that Brighton have sort of like closed out their season. I mean, any win that they would get wouldn't really change much for them, because they are already...
But we saw how they faced off with Manchester
Yeah,
City.
fair enough. But this also more or less like a period where those who have had less minutes would be pushing for more minutes, right? And then the coach would feel that, okay, some actually deserve it, because they've been here throughout the season. They've not been able to be, like, they've not been given a run-in into, like, games and all that. And this is an opportunity for them to also be able to, like, showcase what they have. So for some of the players where, like, the fringe players, like, so to speak, they would fancy this opportunity to feature in the league before it just closes, like they close shop and then everything will be done. But then I don't think their approach will be different, because for as far as Brighton are concerned, it's a system, it's a wall draw system, and then any pieces that they will be able to put in there should be able to, like,
fit into the puzzle.
Fit into the puzzle for them. And then against Villa, they would also want to prove something. So rightly so, they wouldn't be a pushover, like you said, they wouldn't be a pushover. But I for one, I feel that Villa will go all out and then they will get a point.
So, Emmanuel, and I think it's unanimous here. Eli, Ima, believing that Aston Villa will win that game on Sunday. Now, let's come to the bottom of the table. That's where 3 teams are battling for survival. It's quite interesting. Leicester City, just as late as 2016, they were champions of the Premier League, and here they are facing relegation. Leeds United were playing brilliantly under their manager, who brought them into the Premier League. That's Marcelo Bielsa. But here they are. Things are not really going well for them at the moment. Everton, they brought in Frank Lampard. He's off now. Sean Dyche is in. Let's see how things will pan out for them. But let's get into that game where we start from Everton up against Bournemouth. That's a relegation fight this week. And let's get into the match statistics of that game. So at the moment, it's 17th versus 15th. That's the positions of Everton and Bournemouth. And Everton, interestingly, all season have won just 7 games with 12 draws, and they've lost 18 with a goal difference of -24. They're facing, I'll say, a team that matches their form, because Bournemouth themselves may have survived the relegation though, but they've won 11 games all season, drawn 6, and lost 20 games with a goal difference of -33. Everton need a win to survive at the Goodison Park. That's interesting. Ellie, let me start with you on this one. For Sean Dyche and his boys, how much of a pressure do you think they'll be under when it comes to this game against Bournemouth, who have nothing to play for as well?
They have their fate in their hands. They decide what happens to them coming on this Saturday. They don't need to look elsewhere. So their job is pretty much cut out for them. Win, get your 3 points, and stay in the league. For me, I would wish personally, if there was a way they could get relegated, it would make me so happy.
You want Everton relegated? What have they done to you?
I think it's just, for Everton and Leicester, it's just payment for the mistakes they've made.
Which are?
You appointed Frank Lampard as a manager. That's the biggest mistake you can ever make.
So because of the appointment of Frank Lampard, you want Everton relegated?
Yes.
Wow, that's quite interesting.
Not only that, but and I think Everton needs to be accountable. Like, they need, for the amounts they've spent on their team, for the money and for the signings they continue to make. At a point, they were spending to rub shoulders with the top 6 to break into those top 4, top 6 places.
Yeah, even they had a top manager, Rafael
Benitez. But they've just made a mess out of the whole thing. And they need... So I'm all for teams getting punished for those mistakes. And I would have really loved for it to happen to them. But I don't see it happening because it's too good to blow up. It's a home game against a team that have nothing to play for. Against players who have... Bournemouth for 2 weeks now are still celebrating their survival in the league. They are still in celebration mood ahead of their trip to Goodison. We saw how Everton are when there's pressure on them. They went away to beat Brighton 5-1. That is how they can be. Last week, they fought back to draw 2-2 with Wolves. That's how... That is at Everton side when they're under pressure. So, it's just... And I actually like Leicester, even though they've also made mistakes. I would like to see them punished for, but they are a team I like personally, and I would have loved them to stay by. It's not looking good. It's not looking good for them. I think Everton have it on lock. If they blow this up, then it will be one of the biggest disappointments in Premier League history.
Well, Ima, tell me, how surprised will you be if Everton don't win this game and they are relegated?
Very surprised. Like. First of all, I don't think this is a game that they should go in looking for like anything other than a win. Like it's the game of their life. Like every single player.
A final for them.
A final for them. It even transcends a final. I don't know what you would call that.
There's something about final. Yes. You go for that word.
Yeah. So as far as the importance of this is concerned, I mean it's not a game that you would approach like you would go into wanting to like get maybe a draw. No, you are going to win. And knowing Sean Dyche and then knowing what he stands for, I don't think this is one that he would want them to blow up. Everything is they have all the cards in their hands now. They have everything in their corner to succeed as far as like approaching this game is concerned. Bournemouth, they have nothing to lose. They've been able to survive. They've rightly so. They've done good for themselves per the standard that they came into the league with, and I think they'll be okay with being in the league for another season. But then as far as Everton's objectives are concerned, I feel they're falling way below the standards that we know them to have as a club. The fact that they kept Frank Lampard around for like that long period of time, that was even problematic in itself. And the fact that they didn't really beef up their squad to a level where they'll be able to compete with the mid-table clubs and all that. I mean, a whole lot of issues surrounding what happened in there. But I feel this is a game that they can't lose, and I don't think they will lose as well.
Well, so both Ima and Ellie believe that this weekend, Everton have their destiny in their own hands there. They've been flirting with relegation some seasons now, but they should be able to survive this one.
At the point they'll go.
At the point, but not this weekend though. So that's their prediction as well. So we've tipped Aston Villa to win this weekend. They've tipped Everton to also win this weekend. Let's talk about Leeds United also. Under Marcelo Bielsa, they were the toast of everyone. People loved their football. They loved how they set up and all that. Patrick Bamford has not really gotten into the thick of things for them. But at the moment, they come up against Ryan Mason's Tottenham Hotspur, a team that, have their own issues. Tottenham Hotspur are just in a mess. I don't know, they're trying to even convince their next manager. Everyone says, no, I don't like the manager job of Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. But that's the story now. Leeds United are 19th. Their destiny is not in their own hands. They come up against Tottenham Hotspur, who are 8th on the league log. Leeds United have won 7 games all season. It tells you how bad the season has been for them. They've drawn 10 games and lost 20 times with a goal difference of minus 27. And for Tottenham Hotspur, they have Harry Kane in their fold. With his goals, they have a goal difference of +4. Interestingly, 14 defeats, 6 draw games, and 11 wins all season. Final game potentially for Ryan Mason, who is the interim manager for Tottenham Hotspur. It's a game where Leeds United need a win badly and then hope for a favour from Bournemouth in order to survive as well. Can they do this? They have a chance. On a scale of 1 to 100, how will you rate the chance of Leeds United and whether they can really survive here?
I'll say 30%, 40%.
30%, 40% chance of survival.
Because it's not in their hands. They need to. You mentioned they need Bournemouth to do. They need West Ham to also do them a favour against Leicester. Yeah. Because if Bournemouth wins against Everton and Leicester win against West Ham, they are still going down. Yeah. So they need too many pieces to work in their favour, and that is why I think they are going down. It's pretty sad how they have gone down. There's a whole lot of reasons. We need another show to discuss.
Tell me some of the problems you think that Leeds United have not managed well, and as such are in this condition. Last season they were also in the relegation fight like this. Yeah. They survived just by
final day.
Final day, yes, exactly. Yeah. And here they are again. Another. It seems they didn't learn from their last season's woes. Yeah.
It's all about the direction the club wants to go to.
Okay.
When under Bielsa, for me, I felt they were too emotional with the whole Bielsa thing. It got to a point where it was clear he had carried them as far as he could, and they needed to change hands. Now, when you are changing hands, you change hands and you appoint someone who is going to take you to the next level. But I don't think they did that with the appointment of Jesse Marsch. I thought they just brought in someone who played a similar style to Bielsa or kept a similar style to be, just to keep that continuity going on. But the thing with the clubs coming from the championship is, obviously your first season is about survival, staying in the league. But then the second season should be more. Is to make yourself an established Premier League side. You cannot survive, you cannot be consistent in the league and always be looking out for a relegation scrap and be surviving at the end. You should be more ambitious than that. I feel Leeds didn't move past that. And when all the signs were showing clearly, they failed to take the tough decision of sacking Bielsa early enough. Then from that point on, it has been downhill. No other manager has come in and properly stamped his authority on this club and taken them to the level they would wish to be. And this is a result of all the mistakes they've made. They've made some really good decisions. I mean, they were one of the teams I followed in the championship. I really loved how they played. I loved their model, and I liked what they stood for under Bielsa. But the Premier League is a different ball game altogether.
So for you, it won't work.
The Premier League, I always say this: the Premier League is not forgiving at all. You make certain mistakes as a club coming from the lower division. You are going to pay for it. And Leeds, provided how much they've spent and everything, they are still going to pay for it because they've just made too many technical decisions. Too many technical mistakes, sorry.
Ellie seems to have given up on Leeds United already, but interestingly for them also, they brought in Javi Gracia. They didn't really work. They had to let go. And they have a relegation specialist in their team now, Sam Allardyce. Everyone talks about how he's been able to help teams survive relegation, though. Ellie here says he doesn't think they will survive this one. You might let me pick your thoughts also on Leeds United. People also talk about their transfer policies. Yes, after surviving, they were expecting to get in more squad depth and good players. It hasn't really gone well for them. But let's look at Leeds United and this weekend. The question is, can they escape relegation once more on the final day?
Almost impossible, in the sense that, I mean, it's different if you have all the chips in your hands, right? In this case, like, it's out of your hand. Like, maybe the results might go in your favor as you would want it to be. Like in the game that you play in, you might get the win, all right. But what happens in the other games as well? What if Everton wins? What if, how do you call it? They don't get the favor that they need from
West Ham and also Bournemouth.
Yes. Yeah. So what if that doesn't go in their favor? So I think the dynamics make, like, it's not favorable for them at all. It's not favorable for them. And then the fact that I feel for them in the grand scheme of things. I feel for them in the sense that they've had a lot of issues as far as like the fitness of their players are concerned. They've had numerous injuries. Almost every week they have about 2, 3, 4 key players out of the side. Like almost every week. That's the minimum. And it's been persistent. Like it's been a recurring theme throughout the whole season. And that has really played into how far they've come and then the position that they find themselves in. As far as their chances of survival is concerned, I don't see them surviving. I don't see them surviving.
You're giving up on Leeds United as well?
Yeah. Oh, I don't see them surviving.
Quite sad. Well, we'll come back and talk about the relegation fight in a bit, but let's try and go up the table. Champions Manchester City also playing their final game of the season. It's more like a dress rehearsal for that 2 finals they have. They have one against Manchester United, that's the FA Cup final, and then they play Inter Milan also in the Champions League final. So this weekend, they are traveling to Brentford. For Brentford, it's life without Ivan Toney, who has been suspended for his issues with betting and all that. But at the moment, they are 9th on the league log there. A win and other factors could also mean that Brentford can also qualify for the Europa Conference League, though. They have to go past Tottenham Hotspur and also Aston Villa to book that slot, though. So they have 14 wins all season. They've drawn 14 matches, lost 9 games with a goal difference of 11. And for the champions, no wonder they have a goal difference of plus 62. Erling Haaland is just bagging in the goals for them. And they've lost 4 games all season with 5 draw games and 28 victories. Obviously, champions of the season, Man City there. It's a game where City, as I said earlier, are warming up for the bigger finals there. Brentford have a little to play for because they have that hope of Conference League football next season as well. Ellie, let me pick your thoughts on this one, whether Brentford can't really cause a 5th season loss on Man City.
It's possible because of, like I said, like I'm saying again, the dynamics around this game. Brentford are at home. It's the last game of the season. This is kind of a game to thank their fans for their support throughout the season. And it's a game where you know the home team is going to be up for it. Now, City on the other side have bigger fish to fry. They have a cup final, an FA Cup final next week, and in 2 weeks, the big one for them, the Champions League final. I'm leaning towards a Brentford win because I do not think City are going to present their strongest possible side. And even if they do, there's going to be this, players are not going to be fighting for the second balls as well as they do. They are not going to be going for it as much as they would want because they will have an eye on those 2 finals. And that is the reason why I think Brentford have it in them to end the season on a high. The last 2 weeks has been challenging for them and for their star man, Ivan Toney and all that, but I expect them to go on it. They have some really good players there aside Ivan Toney. You saw last week how Brian Mbeumo performed against Tottenham Hotspur, and we saw how that ended for them. So I actually do see City going into this game relaxed a bit and Brentford taking advantage and winning it.
Well, so interestingly, Ellie not really believing in Manchester City, Pep Guardiola and his team, though. Let's catch up with a little documentary for Manchester City, who are champions of the Premier League. When we come back, I'll get to Ima, pick his thought also on how this game will pan out for Man City and Brentford. So if this video does not whet your appetite regarding the mentality of Manchester City, I bet you nothing will make you convinced about the mentality of Manchester City. Pep Guardiola always wants to win, and against Brentford, Ellie says he thinks Brentford have the upper hand. Iman, let me pick your thoughts on the sort of mentality this City side have all season. At a point where we thought, oh, they've lost the title to Arsenal, they've clawed their way back. We thought, oh, City, well, they can't really beat Real Madrid. Here they are. They smashed them. They're in the final of the Champions League. They are facing a treble-winning season as well. The mentality of this team over and over has been questioned, and they always deliver. This weekend against Brentford, against a Chelsea team, people said, oh, it's a Team B Man City side. They still found a way to beat Chelsea. Tell me about what you think of the mentality of this City team, and whether against Brentford, they will let this go easily?
I think one thing that fans need to get clear is that there's nothing like Team B for Man City. That B,
so you don't agree with that?
That whole B tag, right? It doesn't cut it for me, because every single player in that particular B team would walk into any different Premier League club.
Do you agree?
Ortega,
their goalkeeper?
I cannot disagree.
Any player there?
Ortega is actually a good
He's actually a brilliant goalkeeper.
So
if
Ortega,
you watch the game, their last game against
Chelsea and Brighton.
Yeah. Like, just check the performance. He just gives me that whole Martinez vibe, right? You see, Martinez at Arsenal, he didn't really get a lot of opportunities. Leno got injured, he came in, and then we all saw he was able to pull off, and he got his move to Villa. That's the feeling I'm getting about him. But for this Man City team, right, it would be a mistake for you to outrightly write them off, because you feel maybe they are fielding not the usual starting lineup like the ones that we are used to. But anybody who walks into that starting lineup from the bench is actually capable of giving a similar or even if not better performance than what those that we know already actually give. These boys give their all, regardless the opponents they are facing, regardless the significance of the game or whatever it is. They are out there to win. And that's the sort of mentality that they've been able to cultivate for a very long period of time. And you don't wake up just one day and you become like that. It's a process. And they've been well groomed, and then they've gone through the different phases, and they understand what it means to be champions and then what it means to play for Man City at this point. People talk about them not having any history. Fine. History is created. You make it yourself.
Yeah.
This group is actually showing that most of them will retire as club legends, and then and rightly so, you know. Going into this game against Brentford, one would feel, yes, Brentford really wants it the most, but I don't see these boys giving up easily. I don't see them just giving it to them on a plate just for the taking. No, they would have to work for it, and that's the feeling I'm getting now. That because it comes before two very important games, they are not going to push back, or they are not going to sit back for Brentford to just walk over them and then just take the 3 points because they won the Conference League. In my opinion, right, the worst result for them will be a draw.
You think Brentford cannot beat City?
I doubt it.
You doubt
Personally,
it?
I doubt it.
That's
yes.
a huge one. Ellie says Brentford to win that game there. This is the Premier League preview here on Citi TV. We'll talk about Man United. They've qualified for the Champions League now, and they're wrapping up their season. The Premier League season, I should say, against Fulham before they face Manchester City later on. Let's go for a quick pause. When we come back, we have more games to get into. It's match week 38 of the Premier League. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the Premier League preview show here on Citi TV. We're discussing the final match day of the Premier League. City champions, Southampton bottom place relegated, but there's more to fight for in the season. We've gotten into the Europa Conference League. We've touched a little bit on the relegation battle as well. We'll come back and talk about Leicester City in a bit. But now, let's talk about Manchester United. Well, they've qualified officially for the UEFA Champions League. They are back among the big boys. And for Erik ten Hag, it's a game to prepare for Man City. He faces Fulham at the Old Trafford. Fulham under Marco Silva, they have been fantastic. At the moment, Fulham are 10th on the league log, 15 wins, 7 draw games, and 15 defeats with a goal difference of +3. Man United have beaten sides 22 times this season with 6 draw games and 9 defeats all season. Goal difference of +14. Casemiro having a good time as well. It's a game where Fulham cannot play in Europe next season officially. United have also qualified for Champions League. So this is a game of pride. And I guess United will love to use this as a warm-up or that curtain raiser test game for Man City. So tell me, how do you think United will approach this one? Given the fact that there is Man City ahead, Anthony got a little bit of a knock against their last opponent. Will the players go into this game with everything, or they'll be quite worried about, hey, let me not miss out on that final against Man City in the FA Cup? Ellie?
I would have agreed with you saying they'll go into this game with everything as a dress rehearsal for the FA Cup. But if you consider the fact that they've been playing 2 games a week for some time now, and they just played a very tough game on Thursday against Chelsea.
It was a tough game?
On paper, it's a tough game.
Yeah.
But was the game that tough? Guys,
that's another discussion.
No, was the Chelsea game that tough?
I don't know, on paper, yes.
On paper, no, on the pitch.
On the pitch, not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
So
It was
a tough
no.
game.
It's still a big game regardless of what was at stake. Yeah. They needed to seal qualification for the Champions
Or was the game that tough?
Not
It
that.
was
Not
Chelsea.
necessarily. Not necessarily. But the point I'm making is that after Sunday, after Saturday winning against Bournemouth, then the Chelsea game on Thursday, I don't think they are going to go into a Sunday game, which is merely a dead rubber, with that much enthusiasm as they would have if they didn't have all those at stake for them. So that is why I'm leaning towards a very. I don't see this game being as exciting as it should be. I think it's going to be a fairly draw game. Both teams will just be coming in to see the 90 minutes through. Manchester United they've secured their main objective, qualifying for the top 4. They will be looking at next week as an opportunity to win the trophy. So I'm seeing them looking more at next weekend. With this game, with especially having played in midweek, the exhaustion and everything that comes in, I'm not sure they'll go into this game at full strength while knowing that fatigue and everything can set in while they face City next week.
Which players will you be hoping that Ten Hag rest if he's to do some sort of rotation?
Well, this is a game where they first of all, in their defense, they have some injuries there, so I do not see them resting enough players in their defense. They are going to play. I'm sure he's going to stick with his normal back four. Maybe Malacia comes in just to rest Luke Shaw for maybe next week. But up front, personally, I would like to see some of the youngsters start. A player like Alejandro Garnacho, he's been impressive throughout the season. Maybe this is the time to give him a start, to just let him work, just give him that start to end the season. And for the midfield, I think it picks itself. I'm not sure if he's going to maintain Bruno Fernandes for this game, but he seems to be playing every game. He's the reliable guy. He barely gets injured, so I do not see any trouble with him playing. Then again, up front, I think Vegas is going to get a run out because you do not want Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial with their injury record sustaining an injury ahead of that important FA Cup final. So with this game, I'm sure it's going to be a mixed. With their injuries, I'm sure it's going to be a mixture of both the players who we are going to see starting for them in the FA Cup final and those who are on the bench and deserve minutes.
Ima, we will also expect a mass rotation from Ten Hag in this game against Fulham. Yes, I think United have played lots of games this season. Yeah. They've been involved in the Premier League, FA Cup, Europa League, traveling and all that. Will you expect?
Let's not forget they've gone deep in the two domestic championships.
Exactly. So all the way in the Carabao Cup final, FA Cup final. Will you expect some major changes now? Fred starting as well, Tomini, Maguire. Will you expect all these players to have?
I believe so. I think that's what is going to happen because you wouldn't want to risk it. They are trying to find every means necessary to stop City from winning the treble this season, and getting the FA Cup would really mean a lot to United this time around. Aside the fact that they've already won one, like the Carabao already, so this wouldn't really the season is already good in their eyes, right? But then I feel they should be able to rotate the team to accommodate some of these fringe players too. I think Maguire might get minutes. I think Maguire will get a lot of minutes. Malacia might get a starting role as well. Fred will be in the side, McTominay as well. Just rest some of these key players and then put these boys in there for you to, for them to also get a better feel of the league. But I also feel that maybe, although there isn't much to play for anyway, but Fulham might think they have a score to settle. Remember in the Cup semi-final? Quarter-final, right? Yeah, in the Cup quarter-final where Mitrovic and then Willian got the red cards, right? And then their coach was also
10-day game around because Fulham were
exactly. They were in a very comfortable position. Yeah. I feel if the number hadn't been handicapped in that manner, they would have probably won the game because they were actually dominating. Yeah. They were going at them like they would have probably even gotten a second or a third goal to win the game. So I think at that point, against that backdrop, you would feel that United would Fulham would go into the game wanting something more from it to atone for what happened in that game. So it should be very interesting.
Okay,
yes.
Now let's talk about a team who say blue is the color, football is their game. Chelsea at the moment have just been shambolic. Frank Lampard, my goodness, I'm sure when he reflects on his own record at Chelsea, he wish things were better. But one win all season for him. Can he end the season with at least a victory? Because next season, I think we all agree, he won't be there. Lampard will not be there next season.
I pray he's there.
You pray Lampard is there next season. It will be impossible.
Man, I don't have Chelsea's best interest.
But let's bring in the facts now. Chelsea's next game. So we are hoping at least Lampard will get to win this one. But it's against Newcastle United. That's a huge one. Chelsea, they've won 11 games, drawn 10, and lost 16 with a goal difference of -9. They are playing against a high-flying Newcastle side, fourth on the log with a goal difference of +35. Can Lampard win this one to at least save? Can he even save his face now? Because the disgrace is all around him now.
No, he's not going to win this one.
Why?
He's not going to win this one. Newcastle United are too good a side, even with no motivation for Chelsea to beat. Because with the way Chelsea play, I do not see where the goals are going to come from. It would take a really poor Newcastle performance for Chelsea to win this game, and that is the issue. Chelsea at their best, currently with the way they are playing, are not going to beat Newcastle unless Newcastle are poor. That's the main issue with the Chelsea team right now. I don't see them beating any top side, even at their best.
Wow.
It would take a poor performance from the other team for them to win, and it's very worrisome for a club of Chelsea's stature, and that is why I do believe even Newcastle coming into this game with no motivation at all, having secured Champions League football, and the thing about this is, after securing Champions League football, you now have to make that journey from up north down to London to play this game. It's going to be tough for them, but I believe
not used to Chelsea.
They are going to have it in them to cap off their season with a good performance, and I see them winning this game.
Newcastle to win for you.
Even if I don't see Chelsea win, I think is a draw might be the first score in this game.
Well, we've seen Lampard's season. Yes, it's been terrible, but what will a win do for him? His farewell game. Would you think a win will be that significant for this Chelsea?
No. Absolutely nothing. A win wouldn't do anything for him. I mean, the
damage
damage
to save his face.
No, the damage has already been done. There's nothing left to even face save in the first place. And I also feel. I mean, I don't know. I feel. You see, as far as let's take the table. Let's look at the table once again. As far as Newcastle's position is concerned, a win against Chelsea will put them in third, right? We'll put them back in third.
Depending on the results.
Depending on it, yes.
And result, yeah.
Working with the assumption that United might not necessarily go into that game against Fulham with them. I mean, as far as the Champions League, like seeding and stuff is concerned, I think there's something, it could also be crucial in there, don't you think? In a sense that, like, if they are to do the seeding for the Champions League, maybe in pot 1, pot 2, or whatever it is.
They are spot on to be in pot 4.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Good. So I feel, knowing that, right, and then going into this game and then knowing what Lampard has been able to achieve with this Chelsea side, I think they will just give him a tough game for the last, and then the guy will just pack up and go. That's all.
Well, anytime we talk about Frank Lampard, I'm sure Chelsea fans are always pissed, but you can't begrudge them. He's been terrible. We must admit, Lampard has been terrible. And
I kind of feel bad for him a bit because to be a hero, a legend of a club, and then for me, one thing I always fault Lampard for is the criteria with which he selects his coaching, he selects his jobs with. You select jobs where conditions are favorable for you to succeed. You went from this promising manager at Derby County
to Chelsea,
where everyone looked at you as, you are going to be maybe the next big managerial thing in the UK.
Yeah.
Then a big leap to Chelsea. It didn't work.
Then he goes to
Everton. It didn't work. Then in his haste to prove himself, he goes to Everton where conditions were clearly not favorable for him to be successful.
Yeah.
Then you come back, and to top it off, he made the worst decision of his coaching career, taking over a Chelsea team in a mess with more players. And sometimes I understand when footballers especially feel they have this so much belief in themselves that they do not understand. They do not accept or understand that their situation is way beyond them. They always, especially with the emotional attachment he has to the club, thinking he must be the man. He is the man to go and fix whatever is going on there. I feel that is what has undone him all this while.
Well, let's come back to the relegation fight. There's still more to play for in that relegation fight. So it's Leicester City against West Ham. Let's get into the facts of that game. and then we'll get into it. They're in a similar situation like Leeds United. Some few years ago, Leicester were champions. Now they face a relegation fight with their destiny in the hands of Everton. At the moment, Leicester are 18th now. They face 14th place West Ham. They've won 8 games all season with a good difference of -18. So similarly to what Leeds United will face, Leicester stay relegation against West Ham. I'm sure you guys are tipping Everton, but is there any hope for Leicester too, this one? Ima, let me start with you on this one. Is there any hope for them?
Yeah, hope, I mean...
on a scale of 1 to 100.
Yeah, hope is all we all have anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, you wake up dreaming, right?
So they are dreaming?
Yeah.
Or they can dream?
They can dream, yeah.
But can that dream be a reality?
Yeah, if it's not in your hands, there's nothing you can do about that, you know. You can win against West Ham and then Everton will go ahead and then win their game and then everything will be done. You understand? So they can come out wanting like more from this game, but I don't think that they will be... Unfortunately, it's sad what has happened with them. I mean, the fact that they stuck with Brendan Rodgers up to the point that it was irredeemable, you know. And the position they find themselves in, having won the league a few years back, and it's quite sad to see them go out this way. But I feel they will put up a good fight, and then they might get something out of it. But I don't really see them surviving. I don't see them surviving.
So Emmanuel has given up on Leicester City as well, so it's quite a very sad one there. Is there any hope for Leicester? Because you tip Everton to win their game, so once you tip Everton to win, Leicester out as well.
I feel sad for them. And from the very beginning of the season, it was all set up for them to fail. I didn't think they would get relegated, but the conditions were not favorable because they lost their goalkeeper and their captain, that's Kasper Schmeichel. Yeah. Replaced him with one of the worst goalkeepers I've ever seen in my life, and Daniel Ward.
Yeah.
He was really, in the first 10, 15 games of the season, he was I can categorically say that he was the reason Leicester were dropping
mistakes almost every game week.
Every single game.
Yeah.
Schoolboy errors. Then, when you make that mistake, and to top it all of that, their season depended on 3 people. A striker who was way past it in Jamie Vardy. Mm-hmm. A midfielder who couldn't stay fit to save his life in James Maddison.
Yeah, Maddison.
Then they gave the captain ban to a player with 1 year left on his contract who had made it clear to them that he's not going to stay beyond this season. Oh. It was the situation at Leicester City was all set up for failure, and it doesn't help out there because they are very good. They are a good team regardless of everything.
Yeah, I look at their talent now. You have Telemann.
You have Harvey Barnes, who is rated as a very good player.
The team. Yeah. Look at Leicester. I'm like, wow, what's happening? All the talents are there.
And it saddens me that it has got to this worse.
Can they survive?
I don't think Everton is going to lose to Bournemouth. I think Everton are going to beat Bournemouth. Well, that's why they won't.
That's settled then. So both Ima and Ellie tipping both Leeds United and Leicester City, the LL teams, to be relegated at the end of the season. Let's move on to Arsenal. A team where many thought they'll be champions for the first time since 2004. They left the season for long spells, and then in the defining moment, they lost it to Manchester City though. It's a final game for them against Wolves at the Emirates. It's a dead rubber for both teams, dead rubber game. Goal difference of 40 for Arsenal. They've won 25 games. And for Wolves also, they are safe in the league, 11 wins all season. Gunners play Wolves for pride. That's what they're playing for. So it's just to make sure they wrap up the season on a high note. Who wins this one, guys? Look, Ima.
Okay, so I think Arsenal, they deserve a lot of credit. That's the first thing I think I would want to establish.
For potentially going trophyless.
You can say that, but I feel they've done a good job like all around, right? In the sense that not many people actually tip them to even be in the top 4 at the beginning of the season. And I like looking at how far they've come as a club, right? Looking at the sort of contest that they gave Man City when most of these big boys were nowhere to be found. Looking at how they were able to like implement what we've been looking forward to seeing from Arteta for since he took over. I mean, they deserve some credit, right? They deserve some credit. It's unfortunate how things turn out at the defining moment.
Can they win this one?
For this one?
Yeah, are they winning for you?
Yeah, I think they will win it. They'll win this one.
To wrap up their season.
They'll win it, yeah.
Well, let's now talk about the other game as well. It's Southampton relegated against Liverpool. Liverpool, whether they like it or yes, they will play Europa League football next season. Ellie, let's get into the stats of that game as well. Liverpool have a goal difference of plus 28. They've won 19 games, which is averagely like winning all your home games. And then for Southampton, it's been a terrible season for them. They've changed managers, Nathan Jones, and all that coming in. Ruben Selles all taking over, but it's not really worked for them. Brav, as a whole team, will be like, well, I knew this was going to happen to us. Talents they have, but shambolic season. They have to go back to the championship and come back. Let's look at how this one will work out for Liverpool in a quite face-saving game as well.
They will Liverpool will draw a lot of inspiration for how well they've played in the last 3 months. I think it sets them up to build on something for next season. New signings are beginning to get accustomed with the Premier League. Cody Gakpo, I still feel Darwin Núñez will need some working on, but then these are all things that might happen, that are going to happen with time to come in. It's going to all come together for them. A good preseason will be much needed for them. There are going to be a bit more reinforcements, given the fact that they are going to lose some midfielders. So there's a lot to look forward to for them. They need to put the disappointment of not making top four quickly behind them and focus on what is there to come in the next season, because I do think this team is going to bounce back. They are going to, whether they are going to go back to the levels they used to be 2 or 3 years ago, I do not know. It's going to be difficult because they've left a lot of work to be done. But I think they are going to be a lot better than they were this season.
Okay, let's touch now on our final game for match week 38. It's a game I termed the meeting of the Ayus. Jordan Ayew versus Andre Ayew. If only Andre was having selection week in, week out. But it's Crystal Palace against Nottingham Forest. The final game potentially for their manager, that's Roy Hodgson. He's had a very good season since taking over from Patrick Vieira there. Palace have won 11 games all season, but they have a goal difference of -9. And for Nottingham Forest, interesting, I tipped them to be relegated, but here they are with a goal difference of -30. And despite their 9 wins all season, they have survived. Quite a very huge story for their manager, Steve Cooper, who's done so well. So the Ayus will be reconnected here. Jordan and his brother Andre connecting in the final day of the Premier League. Who takes this one at the Selhurst Park? Iba.
I think for Nottingham, for instance, I think first of all we also have to commend those who came into the Premier League from the Championship last season. It's almost like none of them actually went down this time around, because we have Southampton leaving, we have Leeds leaving. We have You're
taking Leeds already. So
I have Leeds already, and then Leicester also joining them in there. So
Forest, Bournemouth, and Fulham
all staying.
It's actually the first time it's happened in a very long time.
Yes, they deserve a lot of praise for what they've been able to achieve this season. And for Forest, I think there's nothing to play for anyway.
Exactly,
in this game.
they are done and dusted.
They will just enjoy themselves out there. Maybe hopefully. The results will favour Roy Hodgson because it might potentially be his last game, and then he will just bow out on the high end. He's done an amazing job since taking over from Vieira, and I think he deserves this win to just potentially go out and then.
Yeah. Will you be surprised if Crystal Palace talked to Roy Hodgson to stay for another 6 months?
No, I don't think he has it in him. I think he's done and dusted. I watched this interview with Gary Neville, and I think Gary Neville asked him a question with relation to that, and you could see from the man's demeanour that he's actually spent, and this is probably his last game in manager. I'll be very surprised if he takes another job.
But I think he's pretty strong, I saw him giving diagonal passes in one of their training sessions and all that. Yeah, the last time,
He always have it in him, but you see, the managerial thing is not only about the physical aspect, the mental aspect is also part.
Absolutely.
He's old, grandfather time and father time.
He says he loves football.
Yeah.
He just loves the sport, and he's always there to help.
He can train his kids, his grandchildren at the backyard and all that. But to take up a top-level managerial role, I think he's done a lot for the game. He's going to be remembered as one of the Premier League greats.
That's right.
And it should leave it as that.
Well, grateful Eli Avotre and also Emmanuel Budu there for the sort of analysis here. Final day of the Premier League preview. That's the Premier League proper. Week 38 this weekend. Next week we have another edition for you. It's a huge one. We'll try to reflect on the season from when it started to how it ended. So join us next week for another edition, superb edition of the Premier League preview show here. We have international correspondents all joining us next week as we try and make the conversation interesting for you as well. Grateful, guys, for your analysis. Remember that this weekend, Citi FM is where you have to be to enjoy the Premier League coverage as well. And enjoy the weekend. And this has been the Premier League preview show on Citi TV.